I was standing in the hallway when I heard my husband say it. Our baby was asleep in my arms, her tiny body warm against my chest. My stitches still hurt. My back ached. I hadn't slept more than 2 hours in a day. Aaron was in the kitchen laughing on the phone. He didn't know I was there. "She's not the same anymore," he said. "Ever since she gave birth, I just don't feel attracted to her anymore. Everything about her annoys me. Even staying in the same space with her is becoming unbearable." My legs locked in place. "She's always tired. Always holding the baby. And always serious and sensitive. I miss how she used to look before giving birth." He paused, then added, "I didn't sign up for this version of her." I felt like the air left my lungs. This was the man who promised to love me forever, that is, for better for worse. The man who held my hand during labor and saw the pain and stress I went through. The man who begged for this baby even when I wasn't ready. I waited for him to stop. I waited for him to say he was just stressed. But he didn't. When he hung up and turned around, our eyes met. He didn't look ashamed nor sorry for what he just said. He looked annoyed. "Oh," he said. "You're awake." I wanted to scream. Instead, I stood there in silence, holding our child, realizing my husband had already left our marriage in his mind, and that only his body was present but his body already left. That moment didn't just hurt me. Changed who I was. That night, I asked him to explain why he said all he said about me with the person he was talking on the phone with. My voice was quiet, but my chest felt tight, like something heavy was pressing on it. I couldn't even breathe. "You heard me," Aaron said. "You've changed. You are no longer the person you used to be." "I just gave birth to our baby Aaron," I replied. He sighed like I was exhausting him. "I know. But that doesn't mean I stopped having needs." That sentence hurt more than yelling ever could. I asked if he still loved me. He stared at the wall instead of answering to my question. "I care about you," he finally said. "But attraction is complicated. You are no longer attractive the way you used to before you gave birth." I nodded even though my heart burned. When we went to bed, he turned his back to me. No hug. No comfort. Just distance. I stared at the ceiling, listening to our baby breathe, wondering how everything fell apart so fast. So I cried and soaked the pillow with tears. I remembered how he promised we were a team. How he said we would figure things out together. How he said he will always love me no matter what. How he said if he was to choose, he will still choose me. How he said until death do us part. Now I felt like a problem he wanted solved. Sometime before morning I realized something important. No amount of trying harder would fix this. Because I wasn't the one who stopped loving. Instead, he was the one who stopped loving me. Before the baby, I thought we were happy. During my pregnancy, I tried to be everything. I cooked even when my feet were swollen, I cleaned even when I was tired, I ironed his clothes even when I felt pain, just to meet up with his needs. I listened to Aaron complain about work while my back screamed in pain. I told myself this was what love required. When he missed doctor visits, I defended him. When he came home late, I stayed quiet. After I gave birth, I expected support. Instead, I felt judged. He commented on my body like it disappointed him. He said I used to care more. He told me I was too emotional now. I tried to fix myself. I smiled through pain. I apologized when I didn't understand why nor what I did wrong. I wore clothes that didn't feel like me just to grab his attention. Nothing changed. Looking back, I see it clearly. I was shrinking to keep him comfortable. And he still pulled away. That truth hurt, but it also woke me up. If I could lose myself this easily, then I had already given too much. And I wasn't going to disappear quietly. Aaron started coming home late. And at first he bothered to lie kindly. Work ran long. Traffic was bad. A flat tire that somehow never left grease on his hands. I wanted to believe him because belief was easier than truth. Then the explanations stopped. His phone lived face down on every surface, like it was hiding from me. When it buzzed, his hand snapped to it. Quick glance, quick lock, screen dark again. If I asked who it was, his jaw tightened, and suddenly I was the problem. "You're insecure," he said. You're overreacting. Motherhood made you sensitive. That word again. Motherhood. As if carrying our child had chipped something ugly into me. As if love had spoiled me. Affection disappeared quietly. No hugs. No goodnight kisses. No warmth in his voice. I existed beside him, not with him. Invisible in my own home, shrinking between laundry loads and nights. One evening after the baby slept, I told him the truth. I told him I felt lonely. He didn't look up. He rolled his eyes. You're always emotional, he said. It's exhausting. Something inside me went very still. That night I stopped explaining myself. I stopped asking questions that would never be answered honestly. I stopped reacting to his coldness, his sighs, his irritation. Instead I started watching. And when you stop reacting, when you stop begging to be loved, you begin to notice patterns, details, gaps in stories. That's when the lies stopped blending together. That's when the truth finally showed. One quiet afternoon, while the baby finally slept, I logged into our bank account out of pure habit. I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't suspicious yet. I just wanted reassurance, proof that at least one part of my life was still stable. Instead, the screen told a story I hadn't been invited to hear. Charges stacked one after another. Expensive restaurants I had never been to. Designer clothing. Luxury handbags. Weekend trips he had sworn were business obligations. Hotel reservations in cities I'd never visited. Then the final insult. A payment for the latest car model and a brand new iPhone. Devices I had never seen him bring home. My hands began to tremble as I scrolled, my chest tightening with every swipe. This wasn't carelessness. This wasn't a mistake. This was a second life, carefully funded and deliberately hidden. When I confronted Aaron, he didn't hesitate. His voice sharpened, stripped of warmth. I earn the money, he said flatly. I decide how it's spent. The words landed harder than any confession could have. We had agreed I would stay home with the baby. That was the plan. Or at least that's what I thought. Somewhere along the way, partnership had turned into permission, and I hadn't noticed when it happened. That night, I sat alone in the living room, my child asleep against my chest. The house felt unfamiliar, like it belonged to someone else. For the first time, I understood how dependent I had become. How quietly that dependence had been encouraged, designed, reinforced, and suddenly everything made sense. Aaron hadn't lost interest in me by accident. He liked watching me need him. In that moment, without shouting, without tears, without threats, I made a decision. Precise. Final. The next morning, I didn't confront Aaron. I didn't cry. I didn't ask questions nor nag. I woke up, took my bath, dressed well, fed the baby, and made breakfast and coffee like nothing had changed. Aaron noticed right away. You're quiet, he said, watching me from across the kitchen. I'm tired, I replied. That was true, but not in the way he thought. After he left for work, I opened my laptop. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for, but I knew I couldn't keep living blind nor trusting him the way I used to. So I checked our shared accounts, our documents, old emails, things I hadn't touched in months, that is, ever since I got pregnant. Patterns started to appear. Money moving without discussion. Accounts I didn't remember opening. Decisions made without me. Hit me hard. I couldn't believe we could get to this point one day. While I was focused on healing, feeding a newborn, and holding our family together, Aaron was building a life where I barely existed. That afternoon I called my doctor and asked for help. Not for my body but for my mind. I needed clarity, strength. Then I called my sister and told her everything. She was quiet for a moment. He's been treating you like this for a long time, she said gently. You just finally see it. That night I held my baby and made a promise. She would never grow up thinking love meant silence and pain. A week later, Aaron announced that he needed space. Not space from the baby. From me. I feel trapped, he said, already halfway out the door, keys in hand. I need time to think. I looked at him and nodded. Okay. The surprise on his face was almost funny. He had expected pleading, tears, questions, anything to confirm that I still needed him. Instead he got calm. He packed a bag quickly like he'd rehearsed it, and said he'd be staying with a friend. He didn't ask how I was holding up. He didn't ask if I needed help with the baby. He didn't even hesitate. When the door closed behind him, the silence that followed felt lighter. That terrified me. That night, I rocked my child in the dim living room, crying so softly I barely heard myself. I wasn't just grieving the marriage I thought I had. Felt relief. Relief that he was gone. Relief that I could breathe. And the guilt of that relief sat heavy in my chest. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. "I'm sorry to contact you," it began. "But I think we need to talk about Erin." My heart dropped straight into my stomach. She didn't attack me. She didn't insult me. She didn't pretend innocence. She told me the truth, carefully, almost gently. They had been seeing each other for months. She hadn't known about the baby at first. When she found out, she said she felt sick. "He told me your marriage was basically over," she wrote. I stared at the screen for a long time. Longer than I thought possible. Then I typed back 2 words, "Thank you." And in that quiet moment, something inside me shifted. Softness hardened. Confusion sharpened into clarity. I wasn't blindsided anymore. I was awake. I didn't tell Erin what I knew. I didn't confront him. I didn't accuse him. I didn't give him the satisfaction of watching me break. Instead, I prepared. I met with a lawyer and asked questions that made my hands tremble. Questions about custody, finances, and what my life could look like without him. Every answer felt heavy, but it also felt grounding. By the time I walked out of that office, I understood something I had never been taught before. Silence is not weakness. It is strategy. I also reached out to someone from my life before motherhood took over every corner of my identity. An old professional contact who remembered me as capable, intelligent, and driven. Not just someone's wife. Not just someone's mother. Me. The version of myself I had quietly buried. Opportunity came faster than I expected. And with it, confidence I thought I'd lost for good. While I was rebuilding, Erin began reaching out. "How's the baby? Hope you're okay." Then flowers appeared at the door, as if petals could undo months of neglect. I didn't respond. Not once. My silence unsettled him far more than any argument ever could. One evening, he showed up without warning. "I miss you," he said, standing in my doorway. "I think we can fix this." I looked at him carefully and realized something startled me. I felt nothing. No anger. No longing. Just clarity. "No," I said evenly. "You don't miss me. You miss the version of me you never truly saw." His jaw tightened. His eyes searched my face, looking for the woman who needed him. She wasn't there anymore. That was the moment he understood something had shifted. And he hated it. Erin didn't handle losing control well. First, he adjusted his approach. His voice softened. His words became careful, almost rehearsed. He suggested counseling, date nights, and starting fresh, as if broken trust could be reset with calendar plans and apologies. "I made mistakes," he said one evening, looking at me the way he used to. "But I still want our family." I listened without reacting. Then I asked him a single question, calm and direct. "Are you still seeing her?" He stopped breathing for half a second. His eyes flicked away. That silence answered more than words ever could. "I need honesty," I said quietly. Not pleading. Not emotional. Just factual. He didn't give it. That night I packed a bag. Not to disappear, not to punish him, but to breathe. I needed space to think clearly, to protect my child from the tension that was poisoning the house. I went to my sister's place with the baby, carrying more clarity than clothes. Erin's calls started immediately. Messages poured in, one after another. First they were gentle. "I miss you. Please come home." Then the tone shifted. "You're overreacting. You're breaking this family." I didn't respond. I saved everything. Every text. Every voicemail. Every crack in the mask he was desperately trying to hold together. For the first time, I stopped protecting his reputation. I stopped editing the truth to make him look better. I let his words stand exactly as they were. And with every message I archived, I felt stronger. Not louder. Not angrier. Just unmovable. 2 weeks later, I moved back into the house. Aaron took it as forgiveness. As a sign that things were going back to the way they used to be. He smiled more. Relaxed. Acted like the storm had passed. He couldn't have been more wrong. I hadn't come back to repair the marriage. Came back with a plan. Quietly, carefully, I restarted my career. I worked during nap times and late at night, rebuilding a professional life he had once convinced me I didn't need. I set boundaries he didn't notice at first. Emotional ones. Financial ones. I documented conversations, saved messages, kept records. Not out of spite but out of clarity. I stopped asking him for affection. I stopped explaining my moods or defending my decisions. I stopped filling the silence he used to rely on. The absence of my effort unsettled him more than confrontation ever had. He felt the shift before he understood it. One night, as we sat across from each other in the living room, he studied me for a long moment. "You're different," he said finally. "Colder." I met his gaze without flinching. "No," I said calmly. "Clear." He laughed, uneasy and dismissive. "You'll get over this phase." I didn't argue. I didn't correct him. I didn't reveal what I knew or what I was preparing. Because sometimes the most powerful position isn't proving someone wrong. It's letting them believe they're right. Aaron underestimated me. He thought comfort meant control. He thought silence meant surrender. And as he settled back into his false sense of security, I continued laying the final pieces into place. He had no idea what was coming next. Not even close. Aaron suddenly started acting like the man I married. He laughed louder. He offered to hold the baby when visitors were around. He posted smiling photos online and wrote captions about how proud he was of his little family. Home, nothing really changed. He still avoided touching me. He still stayed up late on his phone. But now he wanted the world to believe we were healed. Let him. While Aaron performed, I worked quietly. During nap times and midnight feedings, I rebuilt the life I had paused. I reached out to an old contact and accepted a remote consulting role connected to my career before motherhood. The pay wasn't huge, but it was mine. Each paycheck felt like air after being underwater. Aaron noticed the shift. "You're busy a lot lately," he said one night, watching me type. "I need something for myself," I replied. He nodded, smiling like a man who believed he was still in control. What he didn't know was that independence changes how you see everything. The fear fades. The fog lifts. And once a woman stops being afraid, pretending becomes very easy. The truth revealed itself by accident. Aaron fell asleep on the couch one night. His phone resting loosely in his hand. Vibrated again. And again. I tried to ignore it. I really did. Then I saw her name on the screen. My chest tightened, but my hands didn't shake. I unlocked the phone and scrolled slowly, carefully, like I was studying evidence. Messages stretched back weeks. Complaints about my body. Jokes about how tired I looked. Plans they made while I rocked our baby to sleep. He never stopped seeing her. He just learned how to lie better. I took photos of everything. Words that couldn't be explained away. Then I placed the phone back exactly where it was and went to bed beside him. The next morning, Aaron kissed my forehead and said, "I'm glad things are getting back to normal." I smiled and nodded. Inside, something settled. I didn't confront him. I didn't cry. I waited. Because now I knew the truth, and timing was finally on my side. Aaron's confidence grew again. Too much. One afternoon, he slid a folder across the table and told me it was just paperwork. He said it casually, like I wouldn't look. I looked. The document wasn't about taxes. It was about moving money. Our money. out of shared accounts and into places I couldn't reach. I need time to read this, I said. His smile faded. Why? Don't you trust me? He asked. I met his eyes. I used to. That night he lost his temper. He said I was paranoid, ungrateful, difficult since giving birth. For once, I didn't apologize. I won't sign anything I don't understand, I said calmly. He slammed the door when he left. I sat on the floor afterward, heart racing, not from fear but from standing my ground. I realized something important in that moment. He wasn't angry because I was wrong. He was angry because he was losing control. He was angry because I have started saying no to all I used to say yes. I didn't warn him. I didn't threaten him. Filed quietly. The papers arrived on a Tuesday morning. Aaron stood in the kitchen holding them, rereading the first page like it might change. You planned this, he said. No, I replied. I survived this. He accused me of betrayal, of giving up too easily, of destroying our family. I didn't argue. You left me long before this, I said. I just stopped chasing you. That night he packed his things, slowly, loudly, waiting for me to beg. I didn't. When the door closed behind him, the house felt strange. Too quiet, too open. Then I slept, deeply, fully. For the first time since I gave birth. The fallout came fast. Some friends defended him. Others went silent. A few admitted they had noticed the distance but didn't know how to help. Then she reached out. She said she was sorry. She said she didn't realize how much he had lied. She said she was done with him. I believed her, but it didn't matter. This wasn't about her. This wasn't about revenge. It was about choosing myself when no one else did. Aaron still thought he had power. He hinted at court, money, taking things from me. He didn't realize I had already taken back the most important thing. My voice, my dignity, and my future. Aaron didn't fade away quietly. Once he realized I wasn't chasing him anymore. His tone changed. His messages came late at night. First apologies, then guilt, then pressure. He reminded me how hard raising a child alone would be, how expensive lawyers were, how much he had provided while I stayed home after giving birth. I read every message. I replied to none. Instead, I met with a lawyer. I walked in carrying a folder thick with screenshots, bank statements, timelines, and notes I had written while rocking my baby to sleep. I expected judgment. What I got was understanding. She listened carefully, then said, You didn't imagine this. You were emotionally abandoned. Those words settled deep in my chest. That weekend, Aaron showed up without calling. He stood in the doorway like he still had a claim to the space. I can fix this, he said. I was confused. I panicked. I looked at him and felt nothing. I already fixed it, I said. He glanced at the baby monitor, at the home he assumed would always wait for him. I just need time, he insisted. I closed the door gently, not in anger, but in certainty. That night I cried quietly. Not because I missed him, but because I finally trusted myself enough to let go. Court wasn't loud or dramatic like people imagine. It was calm, controlled, sharp. Aaron sat across the room, looking smaller than I remembered. He spoke first. He talked about stress, about feeling pushed aside after the baby arrived, about how hard it was to adjust. I listened without interrupting. When it was my turn, I didn't accuse him. I told the truth. I spoke about healing from childbirth while feeling unwanted, about being awake all night with a newborn while my husband turned away, about discovering lies while holding our baby against my chest. The room felt heavy. Aaron avoided my eyes. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Afterward, he asked if we could talk privately. I never meant to hurt you, he said. I know, I replied. But intention doesn't erase damage. That was the last time we spoke as anything more than parents. As I walked out, I realized something important. I wasn't asking to be chosen anymore. I had already chosen myself. Life without Aaron settled into a quiet rhythm. It was harder in practical ways. There were nights I barely slept. Mornings I moved through exhaustion like fog. But there was no confusion anymore. No waiting for warmth that never came. That alone changed everything. Kept working. Slowly my confidence returned. Each finished project reminded me that I was capable, skilled, and more than just someone who had been left behind. Aaron's messages grew shorter, then stopped. The silence didn't hurt. One evening, after putting my baby to sleep, I caught my reflection in the mirror. I looked tired but clear. Wait, real. I wasn't surviving anymore. I was building. And for the first time since giving birth, I felt like myself again. The settlement arrived on a rainy afternoon, the gray sky outside reflecting the somber finality of the thick envelope resting on my kitchen table. I opened it with steady hands. It was fair, clean, final. The legal jargon striped away years of shared history, reducing a marriage to a series of distributed assets and custody schedules. Aaron had signed without a single word of protest. His signature a jagged, defeated line on the bottom of the page. Later that week, a mutual friend called, her voice heavy with hesitation. She told me Aaron was struggling, barely keeping his head above water in the empty apartment he'd moved into. He spoke often of regret, she said. His voice cracking as he admitted he hadn't realized what he was truly losing until the door had clicked shut for the last time. He was a ghost of the man I'd once known, haunted by the silence of his own making. I listened, but I didn't feel the surge of pride I'd once anticipated. I didn't feel cruel, nor did I feel the hollow buzz of satisfaction. Instead I felt light, felt free. The weight that had crushed my chest for months, the constant, desperate begging for scrap of affection had finally lifted. That night, I held my baby close and whispered promises I knew I could keep. I promised stability, love, honesty. Things I once begged for but never had any. People sometimes ask what I did to shock him. They waited for a dramatic confrontation, a public shaming, harsh words hurled in anger, a scene worthy of a reality show finale. The world expected me to do something explosive when I finally snapped. But the truth is quieter. I stopped shrinking to keep someone comfortable. I stopped begging for crumbs of attention from someone who consistently chose absence, both physically and emotionally. I was a ghost in my own life, haunting the edges of his. I chose myself and my child with calm and steady strength. That was the shock. Because when a woman stops waiting to be loved and starts building her own life, everything changes. And there's no going back. The first holiday without Aaron felt unfamiliar in a quiet way. Not empty, not painful, not boring, just different. I woke up early, made coffee, and watched the light move across the living room floor while my baby slept. There was no tension in the house. No feeling that I needed to perform happiness for someone else. I moved slowly, letting the morning unfold instead of rushing through it. That alone felt like progress. I cooked breakfast and burned the toast. I laughed instead of feeling guilty. Small things, but they mattered a lot. Aaron sent a message later that afternoon. Hey, hope you're doing okay today. I stared at the screen longer than I expected. In the past, I would have read into every word, searching for meaning or regret. Now I saw it for what it was, polite distance. I typed back, "We're doing fine, thank you." And we were for sure. Not perfect, not easy, but honest. That night, after putting my baby to sleep, I realized something important. I wasn't counting the hours anymore. I wasn't waiting for someone to come home or explain themselves to me. I was present, and for the first time in a long while that felt like more than enough. Co-parenting was the next adjustment. It wasn't smooth at first, but it was clear. We kept conversations short and focused. No old arguments, no revisiting the past. Just schedules, needs, and responsibilities. Boundaries changed everything. Aaron arrived on time. He asked before making decisions. He didn't linger or push for personal conversations. I noticed the effort he was putting to this new era of ours, but I didn't confuse it with repair. One afternoon, while transferring the baby, he paused. I didn't see you when you needed me, he said quietly. I looked at him, searching for the old pain. But it wasn't there anymore. I know, I replied. He waited, maybe hoping I would add more. I didn't. That was more than enough. I didn't need apologies to move forward. I didn't need him to fully understand. I needed consistency, respect, and peace. And I finally had those. As he walked away, I realized something else. Closure doesn't always come with long conversations or tears. Sometimes it comes with acceptance and silence. And that kind of closure lasts. Months passed, and life settled into something steady. I didn't feel dramatic strength or sudden joy. I felt grounded. I reconnected with friends I had drifted away from when my world became small and exhausting. I laughed without forcing it. I stopped explaining my choices to people who didn't live my life. That felt freeing. One evening, someone asked if I would ever forgive Aaron. The question surprised me. I already did, I said after a moment. They looked confused, so I explained. Forgiveness isn't about excusing what happened. It's about letting go of the version of me that believed love had to hurt. That version had survived when she needed to. But I didn't need her anymore. I slept better. I trusted my instincts again. I stopped doubting my memories. I wasn't angry. I was done. And being done felt lighter than any revenge ever could. On my birthday, I woke up early and sat beside my child's crib. I watched the slow rise and fall of a tiny chest and felt something warm settle inside me. I thought about the woman I was after giving birth. Exhausted. Invisible. Constantly questioning herself. Afraid that she was asking for too much when she asked for basic care. She didn't know how strong she would become. She didn't know she would learn to stand alone without falling apart. I whispered thank you to her. She survived nights of loneliness so I could wake up peaceful. She endured silence so I could hear my own voice again. That strength didn't come from anger. Came from love. People still ask what I did to shock him. They expect something loud, public, cruel. But the truth is simple. I stopped shrinking. I stopped begging to be chosen. I chose myself and my child with calm, steady resolve. That was the shock. Because when a woman stops waiting for love and starts building her own life, everything changes. The power shifts. The silence speaks louder than any argument ever could. This isn't a story about revenge. It's a story about return. I returned to myself. And that was something no one, especially him, expected.